Hello, hello. Welcome to our YouTube channel or Facebook, wherever you're catching this. I'm super excited for today's interview with Rosie. I think you're going to really love hearing her story. You can read the full bio below, and you'll notice there's going to be some almost movie type intrigue and storyline here. So be sure that you tune in, stay and listen all the way through, use the comments to ask questions, give us feedback. We want to hear from you, and of course hit the like and subscribe button so that more people see this interview. Okay, enough housekeeping. Rosie,
Yes.
take us back.
Uh-huh.
What are some of your earliest memories about money and what you learned about money and how that started to form in your journey as a child?
I remember watching my mother when I was a child sitting on the kitchen table writing checks to pay bills. And I just, the term, money grows on trees, right?
Mm,
And I just thought, oh, you just, you just write a check. Of course, I had zero concept that there was like money in the bank that supported that, but I had no idea. So that was kind of funny.
mhm,
And that I had that experience and thought, oh, yeah, this is really easy. But at the same time, my parents were from grew up in the Depression. And not that we ever really talked about money. I would say we probably never talked about money, but you see how they show up and how they
mm.
behave. And it was about saving. It was about saving. I don't wash my what do you call it? Tinfoil, but I do wash my plastic bags because I don't want to hurt the environment.
Yeah.
But it was those kinds of things, how they really saved it, and they were hardworking, very diligent. And then later on, my father did do some investments and things, and for he was a blue collar worker, but he did very well for himself. He
Hmm.
knew how to manage money, and he knew how to save. um, he made the money, my mom managed it, so it wasn't like he had all the money and then didn't let my mother do anything, kind of thing. It was just, you take care of it. And she was very good at it as
Mm.
well in her own way. So those are sort of my early memories of doing that. And because of that, I became a real saver. This is something that I to this day I value. I watch how I spend my money, and I think twice about it. There's some things that I like that, and there's other things, I'll take a little bit more time.
Mhm. Yeah, thanks for sharing about, your parents, because that's very much like a typical greatest generation couple. The
Mhm,
wife actually managed the budget and, saw how to make whatever the man brought in, right, and spend it, and I don't know if
mhm,
your mom also brought in money or whatever,
mhm,
and then the man made some of the maybe investment decisions,
mhm,
over time, but,
mhm,
a lot of us forget that. We think the guy controlled everything back in the day, and that's just not true, right?
mhm.
And then,
Yeah.
there was something else that you said that I was like, "Oh, I wanna come back to that because you said, you're a saver
Mhm,
yourself now,
mhm,
and that, kind of has come from them a little bit, um, and I love the washing the plastic bags. I'm also at the kind of, I forced my parents to start recycling when I was a kid, stuff like that. But maybe let's talk about that. As you started adulting, you're in charge of your own money. How did the story kind of go from there?
Well, it was interesting that when I was younger, I started babysitting. So I was babysitting, like, maybe I'll even go back further.
Yeah.
So when I was like 14, I think I started babysitting. It was all in the neighborhood. We were in a really good, easy neighborhood to do that. And I saved, I know, and so I was able to, buy the Christmas gifts for everybody. And then as I got older, I probably would have graduated by then. So it was like, I think my parents' 25th wedding anniversary, and I organized a a trip for them, so my
Mm,
brothers, just the 2 of us, but it was money that we had, I had saved, obviously he did too, but he was already working by then. And, I was able to give them that a wedding gift, a wedding anniversary gift, because I had saved, and I was really proud of that. I was really proud to do that. And then when I started working, I saved, and when it came to buying my first house, my parents helped with the down payment, as I recall, the down payment, but it was a loan. It wasn't just,
Mhm.
it was an official loan. We had documents. It was interest was being paid, everything. It was very, very official because at the time I was married to a CPA and I was in finance. So we knew how to do that. We
Yeah.
made it, we wanted to make it legal and we paid it off just like any other loan or mortgage or whatever.
Mhm.
Um,
Cool. I love that they were able to do that for you.
yeah.
Anything that you learned more like by trial and error where you had to figure it out on your own?
Um, about money.
Yeah.
Well, I would say that kind of um, came later. And when I mean later, that came after my relationship that was
Mm.
abusive. Then a lot of money issues came out, and I can go into that, all the abuse, and then what happened from the financial side,
Yeah.
right? I
Yeah.
can go into that if you want to, and because and then when I came back to the United States, I had a lot of money issues
Mhm.
then.
Mhm. Yeah. We titled today's conversation "How to Recover from Financial Abuse," and I can imagine there being like, when I think of financial abuse, I think of a lack of control, someone else is controlling, the money and other things of your life that you don't get to make your own decisions,
Right.
and then to be as you're starting to recover from that, to be given the freedom, it probably can feel overwhelming to be like, "Oh, I can make these choices, but there's so many options, there's so many choices to make." Because even, like, people that have never had been in an abusive relationship, we suffer from too many options and trying to make choices.
Mhm,
So
mhm,
then to and that's kind of evolved over time as we've learned there are more options. I can only imagine being thrown into the deep end of this financial system that
mhm,
has so many different ways you can go, so many different things you can do, and you're recovering emotionally and
mhm.
spiritually and relationally at the same time. And I know there's going to be a lot of people listening and watching that they have been in this situation or they know someone who is. And I wanted, give you this platform to be able to share from your own story what you've learned that other people might try on and see if it helps them too.
Yeah, and I wanna kinda set the stage first so they can
Okay.
see what I went through,
Yeah.
and I do this because it's really important. So first of all, I have an MBA in finance. So I want the women to know it doesn't really matter about your intelligence or education or something to be able, getting into these abusive relationships or even when it's financially abusive. Like, and that just shows, like like you indicated, how controlling these relationships are. So when we were married, I worked for his company and I did all the financial stuff, financial accounting, analysis, whatever it is to do with numbers and analysis. I did that, but I never got paid. And I thought, well, it's just a family. I didn't really think much of it. And I didn't have my own bank account. I will go into that in a minute. But so then one year, I don't know how many years in, maybe 10, I don't remember now, he decided to pay me. Okay. I thought, oh, okay, great. I didn't think, and he decided on the salary. Okay, he was the boss. He can do that, right? But I never saw a check. So he paid me, but then he decided what to do with the money,
Hmm.
which was, like, oh, well, we'll put it towards the house in California or something like that. So, but I didn't have a decision. It wasn't my decision. He decided everything. So I never saw it. I couldn't even buy a dress if I wanted to with my own money. So, so when I left, when I escaped, I remember the I needed to buy a car when I got back into the United States. So I just put out feelers to people, well, what car to buy. And so they gave me some ideas, and I knew I didn't want this one because I didn't want to have a brand. So I was able to buy that based on people's advice.
Yeah.
So that was one thing. You ask other people, right? Get
Yes. I
their
love that.
Yeah, you get their opinions. You get, when you're overwhelmed. But let me tell you, it was almost easier. But then I needed to buy a computer printer. I got a computer too, obviously. I'm just trying to remember, but I just remembered the story about the printer where it was like $400, right? $400. And I thought, wow, I get to make this decision all by myself. He's not telling me you can't buy it or why you buying that brand or criticizing me or anything. It was just so clear that $400 printer had so much more behind it than that. But I have a lot of that where he's
Mhm.
not over me. He's not telling me what to do. I can spend my money the way I want to. And then, but sometimes, well, I don't so much now, but in the early days, I used to hear his voice in my head, like criticizing me. I would hear it. I would hear it. So I've healed significantly beyond that. But in those early stages, it was big because when we were married, even it was like you were saying, I had no control over the money. Now I'm American, he's a foreigner, and he said, "Well, if I put you on the savings account, then we're going to be taxed because if you're an American, you get taxed wherever you are in the world,
Mhm.
right? Depending
Mhm.
on if you reach a certain threshold." So for that reason, again, you're married, you think you're going to be there forever, so you don't think too much of it. So he would just feed from the savings into the checking. Now, I had my little checking so I could go shopping, and I can go do that. But other than that, I had no control. And he would he was generous as far as if we went shopping, he would buy me anything I wanted or whatever. But if I took some of that money and just wanted to buy, a dress, whatever it was, then I would get the fifth degree why I was buying that.
Mhm.
So it became even small purchases became really when I got back to the United States to really like, you know, okay, I can do that. I rented the apartment. I mean, I think of things that I did without without his being in my brain, but it was more of and now that I'm talking to you, it was more of these smaller,
Yeah.
everyday kind of things that I didn't have to look over my shoulder, or I didn't have to worry about him talking to me, putting me down or criticizing me, like, why did you spend that money? It's like, I see. So you can spend $400 on a purse for me, but I can't buy, a $200 dress or whatever, a $100 dress, whatever it was.
Mhm.
So it was there was lots of complex things of going through, and even still, it's like I have a fear of things being taken away from me because I lost the house to him. That's a whole nother story. I can go into that again because it's financial abuse. Well, I didn't lose all of it, but I lost it. And then not having any money, and then not getting a penny for the divorce, nothing, right? So all of this is still, I have a little bit of fear, like, oh, I have to really watch my money because I don't know when someone's going to take it away. Sometimes
Mhm.
those fears come up, even though, if you look at my bank account, I shouldn't have those fears, right? I'm okay. But it does pop up.
Yeah. And it sounds like sometimes it'll show up in the small decisions, sometimes in the bigger ones. Do you find that making those small decisions, choosing to buy the smaller things or, that kind of thing, does that help when it comes to some of the bigger things that you've made some of those smaller decisions along the way? Or is it just always hard?
Well, it's not always hard now. I mean, it's much easier now. I think now it's for the bigger decisions. But I mean, I'll just, I'll spend $5,000 on a training or something like that.
Mhm.
I don't, and I'm in a really healthy relationship now, and he doesn't even care. Of course, it's all my money, so he shouldn't care. It's like, it doesn't really matter.
Mhm.
But yeah, I think it just varies. I would say it just varies. I think maybe from my parents when I go to the grocery store, I read the labels. I pay attention. Of course, now prices have gone up. I don't know where it is in your neck of the woods, but I'm in San Diego. It's like you just blink and it's just like it goes up. Like
Yep.
this morning, I got gas and probably been, I don't know, I don't know how often because I don't drive as much, maybe a couple of months probably that I filled the gas tank, but it was like $60 for my, I have a Honda, it's like, which I love. And it's like, oh my God,
Yep.
and it was like
Yep.
$5 a gallon
Yep.
out here.
Mhm.
So, I do notice, and I'll pull back for things like, well, do we really need this? Well, I don't think so.
Mhm.
Um, so I'm not frivolous, but we
Yeah.
take vacations, and
Mhm.
but we pay
Yeah.
attention.
Yeah. And so there's like helpful voices we can hear in our heads, like our
Mhm.
parents being like, think about it first, wash the plastic bags and reuse them, just being responsible. It's
Mhm.
very different than kind of the who do you think you are to be able to treat yourself. And because, oh, I know what I was going to say way back
Yeah.
when you said you do spend almost frivolously what some people would think on the things that probably are the most important to you. And it's kind of the Marie Kondo, like, spark joy kind of thing with our money,
Mhm.
where, yeah, it's okay to spend on the things that actually bring us joy, as long as
Mhm.
we're not going into debt to do that.
Yeah.
And actually, if we take some of that
Mhm.
disposable income and direct it there, rather than spend it whenever we feel like it, however we feel like it, I feel like that can increase joy a lot. So I see you kind of like doing that, but also still having that little bit of guilt in the back of your head every
Mhm.
once in a while that slowly is going away.
Yeah, yeah, and it is true, and again, things like my when I grew up, so to talk about joy and stuff. When I grew up, we didn't take very many vacations, and we just didn't do that.
Mm,
So I didn't grow up with vacations are a good thing. I did it when I was married, but then that had a bad overtone, so I don't even want to go there. But what was interesting is, I have to like, oh, do I deserve a vacation? Can I? And it's not, so it doesn't come from, do I have the money for a vacation? It comes from, do I deserve a vacation? Can I give myself such a big treat? Wow. Because I never for, that those core years, when you're
mm,
developing some key values that you just think are important, but then you realize as you get older, well, yeah, Rose, you do deserve it, and it's okay. And
yeah.
that's what I help my clients with too. You do deserve kind love. You do deserve to be treated with kindness. You do deserve. It's like, oh, really? And I go, yeah. So like, it's the same thing for me. It's like, oh, really? I do. And I think we
Mm,
need we need to hear people to give us permission sometimes, even though it sounds funny, that yeah, you can, and it's okay.
yeah. Yeah. We deserve a lot more than we think we do a lot of the time, not
Hmm.
just with money, but in terms of how we're treated.
Yes,
And yeah, yeah.
absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I know, and you can totally say pass on my next question,
Hmm.
but I know in your bio it mentions that there's a daughter that went through
Hmm.
this with you. And here, we think a lot about generational things, right? You talked about what you learned from your parents. What are you kind of passing on to her? How have you seen her,
Hmm.
mindset around money evolve, or how do you hope it will? What are the lessons you want to make sure she gets from this experience that she lived through with you, right?
Yeah. Well, it's interesting. Um, Again, I had, she went through a lot of trauma. She's still going through quite a bit of trauma as having complex PTSD.
Mm,
So for her, it was interesting when she was growing up. I was the one who was trying to, all right, this is your allowance. You have that until next time. You have a uh, your phone card, right? Because we lived overseas, we paid by phone cards, not like you do here. Maybe it's different now, but anyway. And then if you run out before the end of the month, too bad.
yeah.
Her father, because they had money, she kind of grew up with a silver spoon in her mouth,
Mm,
just the opposite of me, right? So so he just gave whatever she wanted. I was trying to teach her responsibilities, and he was just like, in a way, kind of spoiling her. But so then when we had to flee, when we left, you know the financial picture changed quite a bit in the beginning, right? It was this like, from living well to living okay. It wasn't like we were living poorly, but it was a big shift for her.
mm,
And she, she never, kind of like me in a way, it's like, oh, nothing was mine. We both have this mentality that nothing is mine. So when she started to get money, it became almost like I didn't know what to do with it, or used it as a spending therapy. right? A lot of people go
Yeah.
into spending
Yeah.
therapy. So that wasn't what I was teaching her. I was always teaching her, well, put some money, always put some money in. Say, I was teaching her, put some money into the savings, and don't put it in the savings account. Put it in a financial savings. So, don't put it in your bank savings, because then you can see it a lot. If you put it in a financial broker's account or something like that, then you don't see it as much. And so you're not going to, it takes a lot more effort to pull it out of that than it pulls it out of your regular savings bank account. So she was in waves, doing that, but then she would dip into it. So she has struggled, but she's now much better. She much better.
Yeah.
Both of us in our own different way. I mean, I don't like to be in debt. She didn't like to be in debt. She sadly got into debt, but she didn't like it. She felt very much a lot of shame, but she didn't. Before, she was paying her credit cards off, and then she just felt, got into some challenges. But her mentality is, I don't like to be in debt either. And I'm not sure where she got that from. I guess me, because he didn't have debt for sure, but I don't know. I don't know where she
Yeah.
picked it up from.
Yeah.
But
American culture.
yeah, American culture. Well, and again, but she lived in the Middle East, so she
Yeah.
had a lot of mixed cultures, right? She had
Mhm.
French and Arabic and American. And watch American shows. God knows you pick up on the shows, right?
Yeah.
There's a lot transferred in the media, in entertainment, these subtle messages that we just take on without even
Yeah.
realizing they're going into our brains, especially for children, whatever they may be.
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah. So I have no idea if you have any grandchildren or anything yet, but if you were to be like, here's the main things that I would want you to know about money and about um like having that control for yourself, what would you want to share?
Are you saying grandma's wisdom?
Yeah.
What would be grandma's wisdom? Yeah, I'm at the grandma stage. I am. Well, it's such a beautiful question, and there's so many elements to it. I think, and they have so many great tools these days for children that I'm noticing. And it's like, oh my gosh, I think it would be, to start loving money. That money is nothing to be afraid of, and the joys you can have from money, and yes, managing your money, know what it means. When you bring money, if it's from babysitting or working at McDonald's or whatever it is, what does that money mean to you? Um, how would you like to manage it? Some for play, some for, putting aside because you want to buy a bike or a car or whatever it is, or put it towards your college education or for books or whatever. That money has a purpose, but money doesn't define you, right? That money doesn't define you. And a lot of people um, get all funny talking about money, which I'm sure that's your business, right?
Mhm.
You get our society, I think, has kind of done that, uh, and it's like almost taboo to talk about money. So this is why it's good. So I think, for the children is just to have really solid and have solid conversations and ask. I wish they talked about so many things in high school, right? Money management, time management, productivity, relationships. There's just so many things, these core things that they need. But money for sure is one that's so critical for children to understand. And you just need math, like plus, minus, you know,
Yeah.
you can get a little bit more complex, percentages,
Mhm.
I'll do that stuff. But, really plus and minus, I think, is just going to about cover 90% of it,
Yep. Yep.
you know?
Love that. Yeah. And it's up to us as adults if they're not getting the education that they need to step in and help pass on those lessons. So thanks for doing that
Yeah.
and also inspiring the rest of us too. Now, I want to make sure we get a chance to talk about what the work that you're currently doing. And I
Mhm,
think maybe you've got your website there. I'm going to see
mhm.
if I can get smaller so that people can see your full website there.
Oh,
Okay.
there. Yeah,
Um,
loveprayingnetwork.com. Yeah.
yeah.
Mhm.
Oh, and maybe I'll put that also in the comments so people can just click on it and check out what you're doing. Tell us a little bit about what you're doing, how that drives your like where that drive comes from to create your own business, do your own thing.
Yeah. Well, the why I started a business was that because I had been overseas for so long. It's just like it's like, yeah, how can I? Oh, you've got so many talents, Rosie. You can do so many things. I go, yeah. I go, but I couldn't write a resume, so I was
Mhm.
to become an entrepreneur, and that's the short version of it. But after being in this abusive relationship, it didn't happen right away. It's been a journey of my healing and really coming into who I was and who I wanted to be and how I wanted to show up. And through that journey, I I just it just broke my heart that there were so many women suffering. And then as a result, their children suffering, like in the case of my daughter, and so many more, that I just wanted to be an example of what's possible in your life when you get the healing, when you take the right steps to move forward in your life, that you can create a joyful life, that you can find the kind love of your life, that these are all possible for you, even though you may not believe it at the moment. But I'm going to keep pushing that message that you can. So I work with women. I only work with women who who have experienced some kind of abuse in their background, whether it's from childhood or in an intimate relationship, and have been crushed by it. They've lost who they were. They don't, they lost the responsibility of really figuring it out. So they can't figure it out. They're stuck. It's like, I know I'm stuck, but I can't move forward. I'm not even sure what I'm stuck about. All I know, at least for example, right now, I was like, I want to be in a kind relationship, but I'm afraid.
Mm.
It's like this push and pull. So I help them really navigate that and create a joyful life. Like, you have one life to live. Let's live it. Let's really create something that you can not be don't live in this life full of fear. It's just talk about money down the drain. I mean, it's like your life is going down the drain,
Yeah.
and what you can create as far as your own joy just disappears when you don't take these steps. So I've made it a lot easier and faster than I did. Like, I wish I had me when I first landed, or a couple of years in,
Yeah.
when I put my feet on the ground.
Mm. Well, it goes back to having that support, that really that's
Oh,
what
yeah.
helps us move forward no matter the trauma we've had in the past, no matter, what our story's been so far. If we want something better, support is a great thing, whether it's someone helping you choose what car to buy or
Mhm.
someone helping you heal emotionally or, spiritually, or someone just helping you find the right questions to make sure you're making the financial decisions that are going to get you where you want to go. Like,
Yeah.
support is so important.
It is. And this is, I'm glad you kind of emphasize this too, because when you've been in this abusive relationship, there's so much shame around it that they don't talk about it. And that was
Mm.
my case in so many different aspects of it. So the best thing, like the first step, is to get support. It truly is, because it is life changing. You'll think you're alone, and there's no solutions. It's just that your mind has just been so closed down by the abuse that you can't see what is really there. And we're here to open your eyes and open really the truth of who you are and what you can do and what you can achieve in your life.
Yeah. And build some of that self love
Oh,
as well.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. I love it. Okay. Well, thank you so much, Rosie. Everybody, check out the comments for the link to her website and be sure you check out her podcast. It is, I'm totally blanking on the name. I know it's got vulnerable in the name.
Yeah, vulnerable to valuable. Uh-huh.
Vulnerable to valuable. Thank you,
Mhm,
Rosie. I
mhm.
should have written that down and been more prepared. Uh,
It's all
we'll
good.
get to say it multiple times now. Vulnerable to valuable, the
Yeah,
podcast. Be sure to
yeah.
check it out as well. And I
Mhm,
think it's right there on the website that we put in the comments as well.
mhm.
Rosie, wrap us up here. What's anything else you want to make sure to conclude with, or any bits of wisdom you wanted to pass along to our audience?
Um, well, I just, for a couple things. So for one, for women who are experiencing this, if they go to the website, they can get a free gift called How to Not Get Into Another Toxic Relationship, so that you can find kind love. And what I usually end with is that you deserve to be treated with kindness, and it starts first by being kind to yourself. And being kind to yourself is knowing how to manage your money. your own money, knowing how to set healthy boundaries, knowing what your values are. The kind of kindness that I teach takes courage. It takes a lot of courage. There's no pussyfooting around here. You get to stand up and have to be 100% who you are, and you don't have to pretend to be anybody else, to please anybody else, so that you can live your full life, because you deserve that.
I love that so much, Rosie. I'm going to just tell everybody, go back, rewind 10 seconds, 15 seconds, re-listen to that maybe a multiple times in each area of your life, and particularly with your money, that you deserve to have kindness. You deserve to have control. You deserve to be in the driver's seat of your financial life, no matter where you've come from and where you've been in the past. So yeah, go back 15 seconds or so, re-listen to that, think about it in every area of your life, including with your money. That was just so well said, Rosie. Thank you so much.
Thank you. It's been a delight.
Yeah. Okay. Go to Rosie's website, check out all of her awesome stuff. Be sure you hit the like button. Give us your feedback in the comments so that more people can see this video and be encouraged by Rosie's story. We'll talk to you again next week, same time, same place.
Bye-bye.
Bye.